So today we're going to start talking about how to solve an equation. And so Wednesday's homework, you were filling in steps, but you weren't deciding the steps. So today you're going to have to decide the steps. And really your goal is to isolate the variable. And so if you think about what isolate means, like if you think about the idea that I'm going to isolate my cranky 2-year-old, that means I'm going to get it by itself, right? I'm going to take the letter in the problem that I'm solving for and I'm going to move it so that it's all by itself. The steps basically are that you need to use inverse operations to undo the steps inside your equation. You have to go in the reverse order of the order of operations, which is PEMDAS. So you can kind of almost think of it as, like I've told students before, it's SADMEP. You go backwards. But you're going backwards through the order of operations. The other thing that's maybe a little less technical but also kind of works is that you start with the number that's farthest away from the letter that you're trying to get alone by itself. And probably the most important thing to remember whenever you make choices about what you're supposed to do, whatever you do to one side, you must do the same thing to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through IXL and I would like to practice some of these problems. So if you look on the right side of my screen, you can see that there is a problem there, a practice problem. So I'm going to come over here. So it's code QAK. So 6 equals 3 plus 3Q. And we're trying to solve for Q. So first things first, a lot of teachers like to draw a line down the center of the equal sign just to show you that there's these two sides, one side here and one side here. Some students don't like the idea that this is written backwards, I guess. So sometimes kids like to rewrite it so that they flip the two sides around. And then really what you're trying to do is you're trying to get this Q alone. So what I said over here about how you start with a number that's the farthest away, or if you think about this as being multiplication and addition, with addition, you'd have to go backwards through it. So addition would come first, so you get rid of the addition and then get rid of the multiplication. But you can also think of it as like if this Q is here, hopefully you can tell that physically farthest away is this 3. So this 3 is a positive 3. It's like being added. So in order to get rid of it, to do the inverse operation here, to undo it, I have to subtract 3. And whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. And so 3 minus 3 cancels out, and I'm left with 3Q equals 6 minus 3, which is 3. And so really what you're trying to figure out at this point is 3 times what equals 3? So obviously 3 times 1 equals 3. Really what you're doing there, if you're actually like tracking it as a step, is you're dividing by 3. Because if this is 3 times Q, then the opposite is to divide by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is what makes that cancel. And then 3 divided by 3 here is what leaves me with a 1. Awesome. So next problem. Z over 3 plus 9 equals 13. So if you think about starting, so I'm here with Z, I'm trying to get it by itself, and I want to start with the number that's farthest away. So the 3 is with it with a fraction, so hopefully that seems closer than the 9, which is separated by that addition sign. And so if I subtract 9 and subtract 9, because adding 9, the opposite is to subtract, and whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. So I end up with Z divided by 3 equals 13 minus 9, which is just 4. And then this is Z divided by 3. So the opposite of dividing by 3 is to multiply both sides by 3. So this is kind of like saying 3Z divided by 3, but these 3's are going to cancel because one's in the top of the fraction and one's in the bottom. And so I end up with Z equals 12. Okay, let's not rewrite this one and just do it the way it's listed. So I'm focused on the side that has the W. So I'm not focused on the 10 this time. I'm focused on this side that has all the pieces with W, and I need to get rid of the 6 and the 2. So I'm going to get rid of the one that's farthest away first, which hopefully you can tell physically farthest away is 6. Since that's a plus 6, like a positive 6 here, I'm going to subtract 6. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So 6 minus 6 goes away. This side leaves me with 2W. And then if I subtract 10 minus 6 here, I get 4. And so hopefully if you're trying to actually like solve this like a sentence, if you're reading it, 2 times what equals 4? So this would have to be 2 times 2 equals 4. But if you're trying to go through the steps, if this is multiplication, the opposite is to divide. And then if I'm dividing on 2 on this side, I have to divide 2 on this side. So the 2's cancel. 2 divided by 2 cancels out. It makes a 1. W equals 4 divided by 2, which is 2. And then, like I said, some students really do view this as backwards, and that's fine. W equals 2. Just flip it around. Dun, 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 dun. Answer. All right, moving on then. 2 plus 2r equals 4. So I'm going to set up my two sides. Looking at my r, I'm starting with a number that's farthest away. So this is a plus 2, a positive 2, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. 2 minus 2 is 0, leaves me with 2r equals 4 minus 2 is 2. And then 2 times r means I'm really dividing by 2, right? 2 divided by 2 is what cancels out here and leaves me with r equals 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, moving on then. 4c minus 4 equals 8. So 4c here. So if I'm looking for the number that's farthest away, the 4 here is next to c. So I'm going to come over to this negative 4 here. So this is a minus 4, negative 4. And the opposite is a positive 4, or adding 4. So negative 4 plus 4, 4c is left over. And this is 12. So if 4 times something equals 12, hopefully you can already figure out this is 4 times 3. But if you're trying to demonstrate that, you need to divide out that 4. So that 4 divided by 4 just leaves that c behind, and then 12 divided by 4 is what gives me mathematically 3. W over 2 minus 1 equals 1. So starting with W here, the one that's farthest away from it is this 1. So I'm going to do the opposite, which is to add 1. And whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. Negative 1 plus 1 cancels out, and I end up with W divided by 2 equals 1 plus 1, which is 2. So if something divided by 2 equals 2, then hopefully you can figure out that this is 4 divided by 2 equals 2. But if I go through the math, if this is dividing by 2, the opposite is to multiply by 2. And I end up with W equals 4. W over 4 minus 2 equals 1. So if W is here, the 4 is with it in a fraction, so the number that's farthest away is this minus 2, negative 2. So the opposite is a positive 2. So negative 2, positive 2 cancel out, and I end up with W over 4 equals 1 plus 2, which is 3. And then W divided by 4 means I need to multiply both sides by 4. So I end up with W equals 12. Five plus 3k equals 17. Here are my two sides. K is here. 3 is right next to it. 5 is definitely farther away, and that's a positive 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. 5 minus 5 leaves me a 3k equals 17 minus 5, which is 12. And then 3 times k means I need to divide each side by 3 in order to get rid of that 3 in front, coefficient. So I end up with 12 divided by 3 as my answer for K. All right, here we go with some signs. So if I'm looking at 11 plus negative 3r equals negative 31. And if I like, I can also put that in parentheses if that looks nicer to me that way. But either way, r is here. My two sides are like this, and I'm still getting rid of the number that's farthest away from r on the same side as r. So if this is a positive 11 here, I need to subtract 11 from both sides. So this is leaves behind negative 3r equals, and then if I owe $31 to somebody, but I also owe them $11, then that means altogether I owe them $42. And then negative 3 times r, so I'm going to divide out that negative 3 from both sides. So the opposite of that multiplication of negative 3 is to divide negative 3. And I end up with r equals 14, positive 14. So I feel like these aren't necessarily getting much harder. Just it's kind of consistently good practice. So farthest away from W, 4 is right next to it. 3 is separated by that plus sign, so I'm going to subtract 3. And then if 4 times something equals 16, hopefully you can know that's a 4. But if I divide out that 4, oops, I end up with 16 divided by 4, which is 4. Smart score 68 so far. Ooh, look at all those good old negative signs. So negative 4 plus, and I like to put parentheses, so I'm just going to add parentheses there, plus negative 2g equals negative 16. So there's my two sides. G is here. Negative 2 is right next to it, which means negative 4 is farther away. So I am looking at the sign in front of 4 to tell me what the opposite is. If this is negative, then the opposite is to add 4. Because really I want those to cancel, right? So I want them to be opposite. So I need to add 4 to this side, cancel those out, and it leaves behind this negative 2g. And then negative 16 plus 4. So if you owe me $16 and you bring $4 to school, that means you're still going to owe me $12 once you pay me back that 4. And then negative 2 times g, so I can divide out that negative 2. And I end up with g equals negative divided by negative equals a positive. $84 equals 7t plus 7. So t is on this side. 7 here is right next to it, so I'm going to subtract this 7 to get rid of it from both sides. And so I end up with 77 equals 7 times t. So I'm going to divide out the 7 here. And I end up with t equals 77 divided by 7, which is 11. So t equals 11. Okay. 2 minus 3f equals 5. So f is here. Farthest away is the 2. This is the type of problem students will make mistakes on. So this negative sign is not part of the 2. So since this is minus, I don't want to do the opposite of this and add 2 because this is attached to the 3. The 2 here is really a positive. It's just invisible. So if I want to get rid of this, the opposite is to subtract 2 from both sides. So this cancels. This negative sign stays with my 3. And then really, negative 3 times f means I have to divide out negative 3. And I get f equals negative 1. So if I have not told the story yet, I will. Signs is what caused me to fail algebra 2 times. Signs were really, really hard for me. So just to point out, it can definitely mess you up if you don't know signs. Okay, my time's about to end, so I'm going to go fast. Farthest away from m is this 1. Add 1 to both sides. M over 4 equals 3. If the opposite of dividing by 4 is to multiply by 4,